Hi, I'm Mike Peterson from Brown Harris Stevens. The Hamptons runs on relationships, and over the years, I've built a network of top-tier professionals who operate at the highest level. Mic Hamptons is your access point to that world, the people, the insights, and the opportunities behind it all. Hi, welcome to another episode of Mic Hamptons. Today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Maggie Bopp, who is in our Hamptons Networking Group. She is an attorney, and I'm not going to steal anything from you with your introduction. So if you could please tell us a little about yourself, Maggie, and let's get going.
All right. So thank you for having me, first and foremost. My name is Maggie Bopp. I have been a resident of Hampton Bays now 20 years, which doesn't make sense because I'm only 27, but, but I'm raising my family here. My lovely husband, John, who you've met, he is the pond master. He's grown up out here. And my little girls, Scarlett and Killian. So I'm an attorney. Been doing it now 15 years, 13 in the criminal prosecution world with the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, and now I'm on my third year at Rappaport Glass, Levine and Zulo, home of Motorcycle Mike.
Home of Motorcycle Mike. Yes, you guys are always on the radio. Before we get into how amazing you are, and you are one of the most eloquent speakers every week at our networking group, which I love. You're always insightful. You always bring cool stuff to the table. We're just going to go back in the Wayback Machine because I know that you are, I just learned this, but you apparently were bartender of the month club. Sorry.
A million years ago, I bartended out here in the Hamptons, about 10 years. Started at Beach Bar, which is still going. I think it's in its 30-something year. And I was at Duran's when it was still called Duran's. I worked at Neptune's Beach Club, which was very entertaining every Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
It was home of the meatheads, I guess was what they were called, or the Guidos, and just a
I remember it well.
Fun group. I probably served you. But yes, it was a really good time. So, which helped me become an attorney because I spoke to people all over the place,
So before you went, before you became a plaintiff's personal attorney?
Personal injury.
All right. Sorry.
That's okay.
You got a lot of experience. Can you walk our listeners, viewers through that?
Sure. So
what got you from A to B?
After I graduated law school, I got a job with the district attorney's office in Suffolk County. And I started off in district court, which is your basic misdemeanor violation bureaus, which is where you want to try a bunch of cases and learn how to try cases. Because from there, I went to what's called the Case Advisory Bureau. It's like a screening bureau for felonies. You present cases to the grand jury, you learn how to present cases and if they're worth presenting or, as we would say, knocked down to a misdemeanor or a violation. Anyway, from that bureau, I jumped right into the Vehicular Crime Bureau, where we dealt with vehicular homicides, manslaughter cases, aggravated vehicular homicides, basically any type of crime involving a fatality or serious injury that involves some type of criminality, whether it was drugs, alcohol, speeding, things along those lines. And I did that for about 10 years. That required me to be on what's called the on-call for vehicular crime. So 1 week, every 7 weeks, for that entire week, 24/7, I am on call. If there is a fatality or serious injury crash anywhere within the confines of Suffolk County, I was required to go to that scene as it was still open and active with the detectives, meet with the detectives and just kind of walk through, see what's going on. The theory behind it is that scene will never be as it is at that moment because, with our roadways, they have to be cleaned up, they have to be open. So to be able to walk the street and see the cars, unfortunately see the bodies, see what happened that caused this crime, I will have the case then from inception until whether there's a guilty plea or a jury verdict. So
thank God people like you exist. It's funny, my daughter is she's studying medicine. She wants to be an emergency room physician.
Oh, wow.
And so she, first of all, her personality is, steady Eddie and unbelievable, like can just deal in pressure situations and can handle stuff that I just cannot handle, like it sounds like you can handle as well.
I think it's because I'm German and grew up with a very German father and 4 brothers. My mom is Irish, Scottish, and the nicest human you'll ever meet, and very emotional. And she was a nurse for almost 45 years, so she's very caring. But the rest of us don't really have those feelings that we wear on our sleeves.
Got it.
We internalize.
I guess while we're just still there, is there like a craziest case or cases, like something you'd be like, people won't believe this?
Yes, the first week of my on-call ever. I am new to the Bureau. I had just finished a trial with one of the more senior assistant district attorneys. I was riding high, I'm in this bureau and it's super important and, it touches everyone in the community. Somebody somewhere knows someone that has either gotten a DWI or has been hit by a drunk driver or something along those lines, because Suffolk County is our roadways. That's how we get around. No one's taking,
Sure.
A train, the subway or anything. We don't have that means of transportation. So it's July. It was actually my husband's 35th birthday. And so we had, a bunch of friends at the house. And I remember saying, I need everybody out early. I'm on call. If the phone rings, I have to go, that kind of thing. So 3 o'clock in the morning, everyone had left a lot earlier than that, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call from the New York State Police. And they said, we have a fire on the Southern State Parkway, and we believe 3 dead bodies. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, I can do this. So I get in the car. We had to wear a suit to every scene. So put my suit on, got to the scene. And it was like nothing anyone could ever envision in their lives, because it was a family that was on their way from a church service. One of the members, one of the parishioners had opened her own daycare center. So she had her whole church over to see everything, and just a beautiful night. On the other side, there was a party where a bunch of young people from Queens went to Brentwood for what they call a fete. It was a party, so it was advertised on social media, and it had gotten shut down by the police. So that group decided they were going to go to another party towards Queens. So as they got onto the Southern State Parkway heading west, this family had just said their goodbyes, also heading west on the Southern State Parkway, thinking nothing. They were also heading back to Queens. And the unthinkable happened, because these young individuals who had been drinking and partying decided to do something that we've all seen on the roadways, where you're dipping in and out and you're racing each other and just not driving like a reasonable and prudent driver is the words that the law identifies. So sure enough, this family's car, unfortunately, was hit by one of these vehicles going at an unbelievable speed and hit the rear driver's side. And it was the gas, where the gas is. So 8-year-old and a 4-year-old were killed. Their dad was killed. And their mom, unfortunately, when she got out of the car, was locked out of the car. So she witnessed it all. So it's something you can never imagine in your life that you're ever going to have to deal with. And then you think that that's the worst part of it, but then you see the steps that were taken after that, that the defendant and his friends, what they did, because they left the scene after they realized the car that they were driving was disabled. after a friend stopped and said, get in the car, after the defendant got his tequila bottle and threw it in the woods, and after they stood there, didn't help, but were captured on camera watching the car burn. So it's kind of one of those things, but the New York State Police, they were unbelievable, and the way that prosecutors work with law enforcement this was months of investigation. This was months of a grand jury presentation, and then it was months of trial. The trial took about a month to pick the jury, and it was about a 2.5-month trial where your life stops. I got married during that time. I was at work on Friday. I got married on Saturday. I was back at work on Monday because life doesn't stop when you have to prove such with a high burden as beyond a reasonable doubt. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages and evidence, and had to wait. My honeymoon had to wait until after, and
Well, hopefully you eventually were able to do that.
Yes. Are you sorry you asked that question?
Yeah, no, not at all. But again, every week we get together, we have coffee, Dan brings donuts, and we all share a bit about our businesses. We highlight and if there's a regulatory change or what have you, like that I think every week everybody in that room learns from each other, which is what I love. But you always bring great insights and knowledge. In fact, I just jotted this down before, but I wanted you to bore me a little bit about insurance.
Oh God.
So look, at the end of the day, people are, we all work together as a group, which is nice, and we want to highlight that. But also at the same time, we're all professionals. We all bring something to the table. So I guess if you can just maybe elaborate, like you'd mentioned it before. I was like, oh, yep, I would like to be bored a little bit from your perspective.
I never looked at my insurance policy until I started working at RGLZ. And that was the first thing Mike Levine, who's one of the senior partners, Motorcycle Mike, it's the first thing he said to me. First day of work, bring your declarations page. I had to ask one of the other attorneys that works there, what is a declarations page? And I brought it, and that was the first time I sat down and actually went through what my coverage is. And before the end of that day, I had already spoken with my insurance company and increased my insurance. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad policy, but to know what is at risk if you don't have good insurance is terrifying, especially with motorcyclists. Because when you're in a car, you're surrounded by steel, you have a barrier between yourself and the other car. Sometimes that's not enough, but imagine on a motorcycle, there's nothing, there's no barrier around you. So the injuries that you sustain on a motorcycle in a crash are catastrophic compared to a similar collision if it's just two cars.
Yeah.
So the injuries are just so much more intense that motorcyclists a lot of times come to our office unfortunately after a collision and don't realize that they're not eligible for no-fault benefits. The same way every motorist, every pedestrian hit by a car in New York State is entitled to. If you're on a motorcycle and you're in a collision, you don't get that $50,000 benefit for medical expenses, lost wages, things along those lines. You are stuck with whatever your policy is. And even scarier, you're stuck with whatever policy the person that hit you has. Right. So if that person has a minimum policy, which in New York is $25,000, and you've unfortunately lost a leg because you were on a motorcycle, $25,000 is getting you nowhere.
Yeah.
And if you have $25,000 on your insurance, you're not getting anything in excess.
Right.
If you have an excess policy, if you have what's called supplemental uninsured or underinsured, so if the person that hits you has a 25 policy, let's say you have 100, you'll get up to $75,000 because you'll get up to whatever you have. So if you've already gotten 25 from the person that hit you, you can get 75 from yours. But with motorcyclists, a lot of them realize when it's too late that they should have had something that's called med pay. And med pay is that, not necessarily the equivalent, but it takes the place of what they would have gotten had they had no full benefits. So some motorcyclists will have a $5,000 med pay, $10,000, $25,000, but those are things you have to have, because if you don't have good health insurance and there's not enough auto coverage, it's an awful place to be in. And hospitals don't care, and doctors don't care, insurance companies don't care. They want the bills paid. So, how's that for boredom?
No, look, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's good advice for folks. I don't have a motorcycle, thought about it about 1,000,000 times. I obviously, like to drive cars and drive them fast, but it's, I shouldn't say that on video.
No, but yes, as your attorney, I would instruct you not to.
How about this? If I know you are comprehensive in what you do. So a lot of the folks in our group are in building services, et cetera, et cetera. But are there steps if I'm on a building site, or I get some sort of accident? What's the first thing that I should do when I think about, hey, that I didn't cause this. What do I do?
Right. So obviously the first thing you do is take care of whatever imminent injuries that you've suffered. And then what you do is you call an attorney, or you ask a friend if they know a good personal injury attorney. Because we don't necessarily get clients through a ton of advertising. We get clients through word of mouth, and we get clients through the word of mouth of other clients who have dealt with us, and they know how we work, and they know that we treat our cases as though it's a family or friend, no matter what. That we do our due diligence, that we are extremely detailed in the way in which we handle our investigations. A lot of us are former prosecutors, so that type of insight, that type of training that we've received is invaluable. And a lot of personal injury attorneys don't have that. So where I look at something, I see it one way. Someone that doesn't have the same experience and background as me may look at it in a completely different way and miss something. So that's why I think it's important to get an attorney and call, because it costs nothing to call and ask. I get calls all the time, I've been hurt, is this a case? And if it is, I'll walk them through it. And if it's not, I walk them through why it's not. So they don't end the phone call having more questions than they did before they started the phone call.
Sure. It's funny, when you first joined the group, I was like a personal injury attorney. Like, great, it's good to have a diverse group of folks in the room. But I was thinking to myself, like, I've never needed one. Hopefully I never will. But
right.
No offense. But accidents happen.
Yeah.
And I think in the group, aside from the fact that you've given so many referrals to the room, which is great, and I love that. And that's what makes this whole thing work.
Right.
But you've received a bunch in the room as well. Like,
absolutely. It's unbelievable that daily I will get a referral or just an inquiry. Hey, I have a friend, this happened. Say, have them give me a call. So with our cases, they take years to get to a settlement or a jury verdict. So, there hasn't been too much that I've been able to report. And a lot of my stuff is confidential, so I can't necessarily divulge too much on what's going on. But yeah, I get calls weekly from our group, and it's great. It's great that they trust me with their friends, their family, themselves.
Yep.
And I hold that very dear.
We it's also through you. Now Chad has joined the group.
He's great.
He's amazing, Chad GPT. But maybe just just a moment more about your group in general, your firm. You're more comprehensive than. And I was just wondering if you could maybe elaborate a little bit about all your services.
Yes. So there are 8 attorneys in the firm. like I said, most of us are former prosecutors. We have Motorcycle Mike, who not only is one of the partners, but he's also my mentor. You know, when I've tried a couple of cases with him, he's just unbelievable. And the wealth of knowledge that goes around our firm. We cover everything from personal injury with motor vehicle crashes, with pedestrian knockdowns, with trip and fall or slip and fall cases, labor law. Labor law is a big one. You know, if you're in a union and you're injured, you know, workers' compensation takes care of a lot, but doesn't take care of everything. And when you're injured on a job site, again, some of these injuries are catastrophic, if not fatal. And then if you're not working, you had a union job one day, and the next day, because of your injuries, you're out of work. Right. You know, that's a lot. And then we also do nursing home negligence. Those are very sad cases, but a few of us, including myself, handle those. And medical malpractice. And medical malpractice, that's tough because you got to know the medicine. It takes a lot of research just to figure out if it's a case or not. But most of them aren't cases. And it's sad because there are real injuries, but the standard is very high. So, you know, but that's about what we do. And then, you know, if we get a call about something else and it's not something that we handle, we got a guy.
It's always, again, such a pleasure to have you in the group. Your insights every week are amazing. When I've needed attorneys, the referrals that you guys have, you, Chad, have passed on have been spot on. So thank you. And everybody, I know everybody else, I'm one of 32, but they're, everybody says the same thing. So if you would please let us know, how can we get in touch with you if this, our audience, if they're, if we're, we need your services.
Well, before I even get to that, I do want to thank you because I had a client recently who came into some money due to the passing of a parent, unfortunately, and we settled one of her cases, and she had never had that kind of money in her account before, and she wanted to put money down on a house before it was spent on stuff that she didn't need. And I knew it was way below the type of real estate that you handle. You didn't blink an eye. Yes, whatever you need, I'll help her. You know, I didn't even know if it was an area that you covered, but, you know, I want to thank you for that because she was having a really hard time and didn't know what to do. And I said, I know the perfect person for you. He'll walk you through it. So thank you for that. But that's the kind of guy you are, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, that's part of, but that's real estate. It's medicine's anything. Like you always put your best foot forward.
It's also being a good human. Yeah. You know, and that's definitely what you are. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
So again, how does our audience get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to our website, which is rglzlaw.com. You can go to my website, which is maggiebopp.com. You can go to Motorcycle Mike ESQ for Esquire.com. We have our social media pages. Everything is linked on there. You can call our office, 631-293-2300. Or get in touch with anybody from our Hamptons Networking Group and
come visit us on a Thursday morning.
Absolutely.
In Hampton Days.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody again for watching another episode of Mic Hamptons. And again, if you ever need anything, I know a guy. Hey, this is Michael. Thanks for listening to Mic Hamptons, powered by the Hamptons Networking Group, where the right people make the right things happen. If you're planning anything in the Hamptons, buying, selling, building, hosting, or investing, don't do it alone. Tap into our network of vetted, top-tier service providers who get things done at the highest level. And if real estate is part of your plan, I bring deep knowledge, strong network, and a track record of getting deals done the right way. Reach out anytime. We'll see you on the next one. You can call, text, or DM me right now, or visit my website to get connected. I work with a tight network, and the best deals go to the people who move first. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next deal. Keep making moves.